The following is a free for download audiobook from the website krishnapath.org. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. 9. Mother Yashoda binds the Lord Krishna. While Mother Yashoda was allowing Krishna to drink her breast milk, she was forced to stop because she saw the milk pan boiling over on the oven. The maidservants being engaged in other business, she stopped allowing Krishna to drink from her breast and immediately attended the overflowing milk pan. Krishna became very angry because of his mother's behavior and devised a means of breaking the pots of yogurt. Because he created this disturbance, Mother Yashoda decided to bind him. These incidents are described in this chapter. One day, the maidservants were engaged in other work. Mother Yashoda was churning the yogurt into butter herself, and in the meantime, Krishna came and requested her to allow him to suck her breast milk. Of course, Mother Yashoda immediately allowed him to do so, but then she saw that the hot milk on the oven was boiling over, and she therefore immediately stopped allowing Krishna to drink the milk of her breast and went to stop the milk on the oven from overflowing. Krishna, however, had been interrupted in his business of sucking the breast and was very angry. He took a piece of stone, breaking the churning pot, and entered a room where he began to eat the freshly churned butter. When Mother Yashoda, after attending to the overflowing milk, returned and saw the pot broken, she could understand that this was the work of Krishna, and therefore she went to search for him. When she entered the room, she saw Krishna standing on the ulukala, a large mortar for grinding spices. Having turned the mortar upside down, he was stealing butter hanging from a swing and was distributing the butter to the monkeys. As soon as Krishna saw that his mother had come, he immediately began to run away. Mother Yashoda began to follow him. After going some distance, Mother Yashoda was able to catch Krishna, who, because of his offense, was crying. Mother Yashoda, of course, threatened to punish Krishna if he asked it that way again, and she decided to bind him with rope. Unfortunately, when the time came to knot the rope with which she wanted to bind him was short by a distance equal to the width of 2 fingers. When she made the rope longer by adding another rope, she again saw that it was short by 2 fingers. Again and again she tried, and again she found the rope too short by 2 fingers. Thus she became very tired, and Krishna, seeing his affectionate mother so tired, allowed himself to be bound. Now, being passionate, he did not show her his unlimited potency. After Mother Yashoda bound Krishna and became engaged in other household affairs, Krishna observed 2 Yamala Arjuna trees, which were actually Nalakuvara and Manigriva, 2 sons of Kuvera who had been condemned by Narada Muni to become trees. Krishna, by his mercy, now began to proceed toward the trees to fulfill the desire of Narada Muni. Texts 1 and 2. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, One day, when Mother Yashoda saw that all the maidservants were engaged in other household affairs, she personally began to churn the yogurt. While churning, she remembered the childish activities of Krishna, and in her own way, she composed songs and enjoyed singing to herself all about those activities. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, quoting from the Vaishnava Toshini of Srila Sanatana Goswami, says that the incident of Krishna's breaking the pot of yogurt and being bound by Mother Yashoda took place on Deepavali Day or Deepa Malika. Even today in India, this festival is celebrated generally very gorgeously in the month of Kartik by fireworks and lights, especially in Bombay. It is to be understood that among all the cows of Nanda Maharaj, several of Mother Yashoda's cows ate only grasses so flavorful that the grasses would automatically flavor the milk. Mother Yashoda wanted to collect the milk from these cows and make it into yogurt and churn it into butter personally, since she thought that this child Krishna was going to the houses of neighborhood gopas and gopis to steal butter because he did not like the milk and yogurt ordinarily prepared. While churning the butter, Mother Yashoda was singing about the childhood activities of Krishna. It was formerly a custom that if one wanted to remember something constantly, he would transform it into poetry or have this done by a professional poet. It appears that Mother Yashoda did not want to forget Krishna's activities at any time. Therefore, she poeticized all of Krishna's child activities, such as the killing of Putana, Aghasura, Shakatashur, and Trinavarta, and while churning the butter, she sang about these activities in poetical form. This should be the practice of persons eager to remain Krishna conscious 24 hours a day. This incident shows how Krishna-conscious Mother Yashoda was. To stay in Krishna consciousness, we should follow such persons. Text 3. Dressed in a saffron yellow sari with a belt tied about her full hips, Mother Yashoda pulled on the churning rope, laboring considerably, her bangles and earrings moving and vibrating and her whole body shaking. Because of her intense love for her child, her breasts were wet with milk. Her face, with its beautiful eyebrows, was wet with perspiration, and multi flowers were falling from her hair. Purport. Anyone who desires to be Krishna conscious in motherly affection or parental affection should contemplate the bodily features of Mother Yashoda. It is not that one should desire to become like Yashoda, for this is Mayavad. Either in parental affection or conjugal love, friendship, or servitorship, in any way, one must follow in the footsteps of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, not try to become like them. Therefore, this description is provided here. Advanced devotees must cherish this description, always thinking of Mother Yashoda's features, how she was dressed, how she was working and perspiring, how beautifully the flowers were arranged in her hair, and so on. One should take advantage of the full description provided here by thinking of Mother Yashoda in maternal affection for Krishna. Text 4. While Mother Yashoda was churning butter, Lord Krishna, desiring to drink the milk of her breast, appeared before her, and in order to increase her transcendental pleasure, he caught hold of the churning rod and began to prevent her from churning. Purport. Krishna was sleeping within the room, and as soon as he got up, he became hungry and went to his mother. Wanting to stop her from churning and drink the milk of her breasts, he stopped her from moving the churning rod. Text 5. Mother Yashoda then embraced Krishna, allowed him to sit down on her lap, and began to look upon the face of the Lord with great love and affection. Because of her intense affection, milk was flowing from her breast. But when she saw that the milk pan on the oven was boiling over, she immediately left her son to take care of the overflowing milk, although the child was not yet fully satisfied with drinking the milk of his mother's breast. Purport. Everything in the household affairs of Mother Yashoda was meant for Krishna. Although Krishna was drinking the breast milk of Mother Yashoda, when she saw that the milk pan in the kitchen was overflowing, she had to immediately take care of it, and thus she left her son, who then became very angry, not having been fully satisfied with drinking the milk of her breast. Sometimes one must take care of more than one item of important business for the same purpose. Therefore, Mother Yashoda was not unjust when she left her son to care for the overflowing milk. On the platform of love and affection, it's the duty of the devotee to do one thing first and other things later. The proper intuition by which to do this is given by Krishna. Tesam shatata yuktamam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam vyantite. Bhagavad Gita 10:10. In Krishna consciousness, everything is dynamic. Krishna guides the devotee in what to do first and what to do on the platform, and what to do next on the platform of absolute truth. Text 6. Being very angry and biting his reddish lips with his teeth, Krishna, with false tears in his eyes, broke the container of yogurt with a piece of stone. Then he entered a room and began to eat the freshly churned butter in a solitary place. Purport. It is natural that when a child becomes angry, he can begin crying with false tears in his eyes. So Krishna did this, biting his reddish lips with his teeth. He broke the pot with a stone, entered a room, and began to eat the freshly churned butter. Text 7. Mother Yashoda, after taking down the hot milk from the oven, returned to the churning spot where she saw that the container of yogurt was broken and that Krishna was not present. She concluded that the breaking of the pot was the work of Krishna. Purport. Seeing the pot broken and Krishna not present, Yashoda definitely concluded that the breaking of the pot was the work of Krishna. There was no doubt about it. Text 8. Krishna at that time was sitting on an upside-down wooden mortar for grinding spices and was distributing milk preparations such as yogurt and butter to the monkeys as he liked. Because of having stolen, he was looking all around with great anxiety, suspecting that he might be chastised by his mother. Mother Yashoda, upon seeing him, very cautiously approached him from behind. Purport. Mother Yashoda was able to trace Krishna by following his butter-smeared footprints. She saw that Krishna was stealing butter, and thus she smiled. Meanwhile, the crows also entered the room and came out in fear. Thus, Mother Yashoda found Krishna stealing butter and very anxiously looking here and there. Text 9. When Lord Krishna saw his mother, stick in hand, he very quickly got down from the top of the mortar and began to flee as if very much afraid. Although yogis try to capture him as Paramatma in meditation, desiring to enter into the effulgence of the Lord with great austerities and penances, they fail to reach him. But Mother Yashoda, thinking that same Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna to be her son, began following Krishna to catch him. Purport. Yogis, mystics, want to catch Krishna as Paramatma, and with great austerities and penances they try to approach him, but they cannot. Here we see, however, that Krishna is going to be caught by Yashoda and is running away in fear. This illustrates the difference between the bhakta and the yogi. Yogis cannot reach Krishna, but for pure devotees like Mother Yashoda, Krishna is already caught. Krishna was even afraid of Mother Yashoda's stick. This was mentioned by Queen Kunti in her prayers, Bhava Bhavanaya Stitasya, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.31. Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda, and yogis are afraid of Krishna. Yogis try to reach Krishna by Jnana Yoga and other yogas, but fail. Yet, although Mother Yashoda was a woman, Krishna was afraid of her, as clearly described in this verse. Text 10. While following Krishna, Mother Yashoda, her thin waist overburdened by her heavy breasts, naturally had to reduce her speed. Because of following Krishna very swiftly, her hair became loose and the flowers in her hair were falling after her. Yet she did not fail to capture her son, Krishna. Purport. Yogis cannot capture Krishna by severe penances and austerities, but Mother Yashoda, despite all obstacles, was finally able to catch Krishna without difficulty. This is the difference between a yogi and a bhakta. Yogis cannot even enter the effulgence of Krishna. Yasa prabha prabhavato jagananda koti. Brahma Samhita 540. In that effulgence there are millions of universes, but yogis and jnanis cannot enter that effulgence even after many, many years of austerities, whereas bhaktas can capture Krishna simply by love and affection. This was the example shown here by Mother Yashoda. Krishna therefore confirms that if one wants to capture him, one must undertake devotional service. Bhaktimam abhijanati avinaschasmi tatvata tatamam tatvato gatma vishate tadanantaram. Srimad Bhagavad Gita 1855. Bhaktas enter even the planet of Krishna very easily, but the less intelligent yogis and jnanis by their meditation remain running after Krishna. Even if they enter Krishna's effulgence, they fall down. Text 11. When caught by Mother Yashoda, Krishna became more and more afraid and admitted to being an offender. As she looked upon him, she saw that he was crying, his tears mixed with the black ointment around his eyes, and as he rubbed his eyes with his hands, he smeared the ointment all over his face. Mother Yashoda, catching her beautiful son by the hand, mildly began to chastise him. Purport. From these dealings between Mother Yashoda and Krishna, we can understand the exalted position of a pure devotee in loving service to the Lord. Yogis, Jnanis, Karmis, and Vedantas cannot even approach Krishna. They must remain very, very far away from him and try to enter his bodily effulgence, although this also they are unable to do. Great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva always worship the Lord by meditation and by service. Even the most powerful Yamaraj fears Krishna. Therefore, as we find in the history of Ajamil, Yamaraj instructed his followers not even to approach the devotees, what to speak of capturing them. In other words, Yamaraj also fears Krishna and Krishna's devotees. Yet this Krishna became so dependent on Mother Yashoda that when she simply showed Krishna the stick in her hand, Krishna admitted to being an offender and began to cry like an ordinary child. Mother Yashoda, of course, did not want to chastise her beloved son-child very much, and therefore she immediately threw her stick away and simply rebuked Krishna, saying, quote, "Now I shall bind you so that you cannot commit any further offensive activities, nor for the time being can you play with your playmates." End quote. This shows the position of a pure devotee. In other words, in contrast with others, like Jnanis, yogis, and the followers of Vedic ritualistic ceremonies in regarding the transcendental nature of the absolute truth. Text 12. Mother Yashoda was always overwhelmed by intense love for Krishna, not knowing Krishna, who Krishna was, or how powerful he was. Because of maternal affection for Krishna, she never even cared to know who he was. Therefore, when she saw that her son had become excessively afraid, she threw the stick away and desired to bind him so that he would not commit any further naughty activities. Purport. Mother Yashoda wanted to bind Krishna not in order to chastise him, but because she thought that the child was so restless that he might leave the house in fear. That would be another disturbance. Therefore, because of a full affection to stop Krishna from leaving the house, she wanted to bind him with rope. Mother Yashoda wanted to impress upon Krishna that since he was afraid merely to see her stick, he should not perform such disturbing activities as breaking the container of yogurt and butter and distributing its contents to the monkeys. The Mother Yashoda did not care to understand who Krishna was and how his power spreads everywhere. This is an example of pure love for Krishna. Text 13 and 14. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no beginning and no end, no exterior and no interior, no front and no rear. In other words, he is all-pervading. Because he is not under the influence of the element of time, for him there is no difference between past, present, and future. He exists in his own transcendental form at all times. Being absolute, beyond relativity, he is free from distinctions between cause and effect, although he is the cause and effect of everything. That unmanifested person, who is beyond the perception of the senses, had now appeared as a human child, and Mother Yashoda, considering him her own ordinary child, bound him to the wooden mortar with a rope. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 10:12, Krishna is described as the Supreme Brahman, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma. The word Brahma means the greatest. Krishna is greater than the greatest, being unlimited and all-pervading. How can it be possible for the all-pervading to be measured or bound? Then again, Krishna is the time factor. Therefore, he is all-pervading not only in time or in space, but also in time. We have measurements of time, but although we are limited by past, present, and future, for Krishna, these do not exist. Every individual person can be measured, but Krishna has already shown that although he is also an individual, the entire cosmic manifestation is within his mouth. All these points considered, Krishna cannot be measured. How then did Yashoda want to measure him and bind him? We must conclude that this took place simply on the platform of pure transcendental love. That was the only cause. Advaitam achyutam anadim anantarupam adyam purana purusham navyojanam cha vedeshu durlabam adurlabam bhakto govindam adipurusham tamham jami. Brahma Samhita 5:33. Everything is one because Krishna is the supreme cause of everything. Krishna cannot be measured or calculated by Vedic knowledge. Vedeshu durlabam. He is available only to devotees. Adurlabam atma bhakto. Devotees can handle him because they act on the basis of loving service. Bhaktimam abhijananti yavanyas chasmi tatvata. Thus, Mother Yashoda wanted to bind him. Text 15. When Mother Yashoda was trying to bind the offending child, she saw that the binding rope was short by a distance of the width of 2 fingers. Thus, she brought another rope to join it to it. Purport. Here is the first chapter of Krishna's exhibition of unlimited potency to Mother Yashoda when she tried to bind him. The rope was too short. The Lord had already shown his unlimited potency by killing Putana, Shakatasura, and Trinavarta. Now, Krishna exhibited another vibhuti, or display of potency to Mother Yashoda. Quote, "Unless I agree," Krishna desired to show, "you cannot bind me." End quote. Thus, although Mother Yashoda, at her attempt to bind Krishna, added one rope after another, ultimately she was a failure. When Krishna agreed, however, she was successful. In other words, one must be in transcendental love with Krishna, but that does not mean that one can control Krishna. When Krishna is satisfied with one's devotional service, he does everything himself. Seva mukhe jivado sayameva svaratyada. He reveals more and more to the devotee as the devotee advances in service. Jivado, this service begins with the tongue, with chanting, and with taking the prasad of Krishna. Atasi Krishna namadi navavedvigirim indriyai seva mukhe jivado sayameva svaratyada. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.234. Text 16. This new rope was also short by a measurement of 2 fingers, and when another rope was joined to it, it was still 2 fingers too short. With as many ropes as she joined, all of them failed. Their shortness could not be overcome. Text 17. Thus, Mother Yashoda joined whatever ropes were available in the household, but still she failed in her attempt to bind Krishna. Mother Yashoda's friends, the elderly gopis in the neighborhood, were smiling and enjoying the fun. Similarly, Mother Yashoda, although laboring in that way, was also smiling. All of them were struck with wonder. Purport. Actually, this incident was wonderful because Krishna was only a child with small hands. To bind him should have required only a rope, not more than 2 feet long. All the ropes in the house combined together might have been hundreds of feet long, but still he was impossible to bind, for all the ropes together were still too short. Naturally, Mother Yashoda and her gopi friends thought, quote, "How is this possible?" End quote. Seeing this funny affair, all of them were smiling. The first rope was short by a measurement of width of 2 fingers. After the second rope was added, it was still 2 fingers too short. If the shortness of all the ropes were added together, they must have been amounted to the width of hundreds of fingers. Certainly, this was astonishing. This was another exhibition of Krishna's inconceivable potency to his mother and his mother's friends. Text 18. Because of Mother Yashoda's hard labor, her whole body became covered with perspiration, and the flowers and comb were falling from her hair. When child Krishna saw his mother thus fatigued, he became merciful to her and agreed to be bound. Purport. When Mother Yashoda and the other ladies finally saw that Krishna, although decorated with many bangles and other jeweled ornaments, could not be bound with all the ropes available in the house, they decided that Krishna was so fortunate that he could not be bound by any material condition. Thus they gave up the idea of binding him. But in competition between Krishna and his devotee, Krishna sometimes agrees to be defeated. Thus Krishna's internal energy, Yogamaya, was brought to work, and Krishna agreed to be bound by Mother Yashoda. Text 19. O Maharaj Parikshit, this entire universe, with its great exalted demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Indra, is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, the Supreme Lord has one transcendental attribute. He comes under the control of his devotees. This was now exhibited by Krishna in this pastime. Purport. This pastime of Krishna's is very difficult to understand, but devotees can understand it. It is therefore said, Darshayams tadvidam loka atmana bhakta vashyatam. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.11.9. The Lord displays the transcendental attribute of coming under the control of his devotees, as stated in the Brahma Samhita 5.35. Eko pisau rachat yitum jagadanda kotim yat shakti asti jagadanda chayat yad ananta. Adantarasta paramanu chayantarastam govindamadi prusham tamham jami. By his one plenary portion as Paramatma, the Lord controls innumerable universes with all their demigods, yet he agrees to be controlled by a devotee. In the Upanishads, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can run with more speed than the mind, but here we see that although Krishna wanted to avoid being arrested by his mother, he was finally defeated and Mother Yasoda captured him. Lakshmi Sahasra Shatash Sambrahma Sevyamanam. Krishna is served by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Nevertheless, he steals butter like one who is poverty-stricken. Yamaraj, the controller of all living entities, fears the order of Krishna, yet Krishna is afraid of his mother's stick. These contradictions cannot be understood by one who is not a devotee, but a devotee can understand how powerful is unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. It is so powerful that Krishna can be controlled by an unalloyed devotee. This Bhritya Vashyata does not mean that he is under the control of the servant. Rather, he is under the control of the servant's pure love. In Bhagavad Gita 9:21, it is said that Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna. Arjuna ordered him, Senayor Ubirmani Ratam Shtapayam Chimechita. Quote, My dear Krishna, you have agreed to be my charioteer and to execute my orders. Place my chariot between the two armies of soldiers. End quote. Krishna immediately executed this order, and therefore one may argue that Krishna also is not independent, but this is one's agyan, or ignorance. Krishna is always fully independent, but when he becomes subordinate to his devotees, this is a display of Ananta Chinmaya Rasa, the humor of transcendental qualities that increases his transcendental pleasure. Everyone worships Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he sometimes desires to be controlled by someone else. Such a controller can be no one else but a pure devotee. Text 20. Neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yashoda. Purport. This is a comparative study between Mother Yashoda and other devotees of the Lord. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 5, 142, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arab Shabha Bhritya. The only Supreme Master is Krishna, and all others are his servants. Krishna has the transcendental quality of Bhritya Vashyata, becoming subordinate to his Bhritya, or servant. Now, although everyone is Bhritya, and although Krishna has the quality of becoming subordinate to Bhritya, the position of Mother Yashoda is the greatest. Lord Brahma is Bhritya, servant of Krishna, and he is Adikavi, the original creator of this universe. Tene Brahma Yida Ya Adikaviye. Nonetheless, even he could not obtain such mercy as Mother Yashoda. As for Lord Shiva, he is the topmost Vaishnava. Vaishnavam Yata Shambhu. What to speak of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, is the Lord's constant companion in service, since she always associates with his body. But even she could not get such mercy. Therefore Maharaj Parikshit was surprised, thinking, quote, what did Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj do in their previous lives by which they got such a great opportunity, the opportunity to be the affectionate father and mother of Krishna? In this verse, there are three negative pronouncements, na, na, na. When anything is uttered three times, do it, do it, do it. One should understand that this is meant to indicate great stress on this fact. In this verse we find na labhire, na labhire, na labhire. Yet Mother Yasoda is in the supermost exalted position, and thus Krishna has become completely subordinate to her. The word vimuktidat is also significant. There are different types of liberation, such as Suyuja, Salokya, Sarupya, Sharsti, and Shamipya, but vimukti means, quote, special mukti, end quote. When after liberation one is situated on the platform of prema bhakti, one is said to have achieved vimukti, special mukti. Therefore the word na is mentioned. That exalted platform of prem is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as prema pumarto mahan, and Mother Yashoda naturally acts in such an exalted position in loving affairs. Therefore, she is a Nitya Siddha devotee, an expansion of Krishna's Hladini potency, his potency to enjoy transcendental bliss through expansions who are special devotees. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratitavitabi. Such devotees are not sadhana siddha. Text 21. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of Mother Yashoda, is accessible to devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service, but he is not as easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerities and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self. Purport. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda, is very easily available to devotees, but not to tapasvis, yogis, jnanis, and others who have a bodily concept of life. Although they may sometimes be called santa bhaktas, real bhakti begins with dasya rasa. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Ye tamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmana vantante manushya partha sarvashaha. Quote, as living entities surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. End quote. Everyone is seeking Krishna, for he is the supersoul of all individual souls. Everyone loves his body and wants to protect it because he is within the body as the soul. And everyone loves the soul because the soul is part and parcel of the supersoul. Therefore, everyone is actually seeking to achieve happiness by reviving his relationship with the supersoul. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 15, Vedas Chastavar Aham Avivedya. Quote, by all the Vedas, it is I who am to be known, end quote. Therefore, the karmis, jnanis, yogis, and saintly persons are all seeking Krishna. But by following in the footsteps of devotees who are in a direct relationship with Krishna, especially the inhabitants of Vrindavan, one can reach the supreme position of associating with Krishna. As it is said, Vrindavanam prityaja padam ekam nagachiti. Krishna does not leave Vrindavan even for a moment. The Vrindavavasis, the mother Yashoda, Krishna's friends, and Krishna's conjugal lovers, the younger gopis with whom he dances, have very intimate relationships with Krishna, and if one follows in the footsteps of these devotees, Krishna is available. Although the Nitya Siddha expansions of Krishna always remain with Krishna, if those engaged in sadhana siddha follow in the footsteps of Krishna's Nitya Siddha associates, such sadhana siddhas can also easily attain Krishna without difficulty. But there are those who are attached to the bodily concepts of life. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, for example, have very prestigious positions, and thus they have the sense of being very exalted Ishwaras. In other words, because Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are guna avatars and have exalted positions, they have some small sense of being like Krishna. But the pure devotees who inhabit Vrindavan do not possess any bodily conception. They are fully dedicated to the service of the Lord in sublime affection, prema. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore recommended prema pumarto mahan. The highest perfection of life is prema, pure love in relationship with Krishna. And Mother Yashoda appears to be the topmost of devotees who have attained this perfection. Text 22. While Mother Yashoda was very busy with household affairs, the Supreme Lord Krishna observed two trees known as Yamala Arjuna, in which in a former millennium had been the demigod sons of Kuver. Text 23. In their former birth, these two sons, known as Nalakubar and Manigriva, were extremely opulent and fortunate, but because of pride and false prestige, they did not care about anyone, and thus Narada Muni cursed them to become trees. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 10th canto, 9th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Mother Yashoda Binds Lord Krishna. The following is a free-for-download audiobook from the website krishnapath.org. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Part 2, Chapter 10, Deliverance of the Yamala Arjuna trees. This chapter describes how Krishna broke the twin Arjuna trees from which Nala Kuvera and Manigriva, the sons of Kuvera, then came out. Nala Kuvera and Manigriva were great devotees of Lord Shiva, but because of material opulence, they became so extravagant and senseless that one day they were enjoying with naked girls in a lake and shamelessly walking here and there. Suddenly, Narada Muni passed by, but they were so maddened by their wealth and false prestige that even though they saw Narada Muni present, they remained naked and were not even ashamed. In other words, because of opulence and false prestige, they lost their sense of common decency. Of course, it is the nature of the material qualities that when one becomes very much opulent in terms of wealth and prestige and a prestigious position, one loses one's sense of etiquette and does not care about anyone, even a sage like Narada Muni. For such bewildered persons, ahankara vimudatma, who especially deride devotees, the proper punishment is to be again stricken with poverty. The Vedic rules and regulations prescribe how to control the false sense of prestige by the practice of yama, niyama, and so on. Tapasa, brahmacharya, samena cha, damena cha. A poor man can be convinced very easily that the prestige of an opulent position in this material world is temporary, but a rich man cannot. Therefore, Narada Muni set an example by cursing these two persons, Nala Kuvera and Manigriva, to become dull and unconscious like trees. This was a fit punishment. But because Krishna is always merciful, even though they were punished, they were fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Therefore, the punishment given by Vaishnavas is not at all punishment. Rather, it is another kind of mercy. By the curse of the Devarshi, Nala Kuvera and Manigriva became twin Arjuna trees and remained in the courtyard of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, waiting for the opportunity to see Krishna directly. Lord Krishna, by the desire of his devotee, uprooted these Yamala Arjuna trees, and when Nala Kuvera and Manigriva were thus delivered by Krishna, after 100 years of the Devas, their old consciousness revived, and they offered Krishna prayers suitable to be offered by demigods. Having thus gotten the opportunity to see Krishna face to face, they understood how merciful Narada Muni was, and therefore they expressed their indebtedness to him and thanked him. Then, after circumambulating the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, they departed for their respective abodes. Text 1. Parikshit Maharaj inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, O great and powerful saint, what was the cause of Nala Kuvera and Manigriva's having been cursed by Narada Muni? What did they do that was so abominable that even Narada, the great sage, became angry at them? Kindly describe this to me. Text 2 and 3. Shukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, because the two sons of Kuvera had been elevated to the association of Lord Shiva, of which they were very much proud, they were allowed to wander in the garden attached to Kailash Hill on the bank of the Mandakini River. Taking advantage of this, they used to drink a kind of liquor called Varuni. Accompanied by women singing after them, they would wander in that garden of flowers, their eyes always rolling in intoxication. Purport. This verse mentions some of the material advantages afforded to persons associated with or devoted to Lord Shiva. Apart from Lord Shiva, if one is a devotee of any other demigod, one receives some material advantages. Foolish people, therefore, become devotees of demigods. This has been pointed out and criticized by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 7.20. Kamastas tahritigyan prapadyante niyadevata. Those who are not devotees of Krishna have a taste for women, wine, and so forth, and therefore they have been described as hritigyan, bereft of sense. The Krishna consciousness movement can very easily point out such foolish persons, for they have been indicated in Bhagavad Gita 7.15, where Lord Krishna says, Namam duskritana mudha prapadyante naradama maya prakriti jnana sarambhava masrita. Quote, those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. End quote. Anyone who is not a devotee of Krishna and does not surrender to Krishna must be considered Naradama, the lowest of men, and Duskriti, one who always commits sinful activities. Thus, there is no difficulty in finding out who is a third or class or fourth class man, for one's position can be understood simply by this crucial test. Is he or is he not a devotee of Krishna? Why are devotees of the demigods greater in number than the Vaishnavas? The example is given, or the answer is given herein. Vaishnavas are not interested in such fourth-class pleasures as wine and women, nor does Krishna allow them such facilities. Text 4. Within the waters of the Mandakini Ganges, which were crowded with gardens of lotus flowers, the two sons of Kuvera would enjoy young girls, just like two male elephants enjoying in the water with female elephants. Purport. People generally go to the Ganges to be purified from the effects of sinful life, but here is an example of how foolish persons enter the Ganges to become involved in sinful life. It is not that everyone becomes purified by entering the Ganges. Everything, spiritual and material, depends on one's mental condition. Text 5. O Maharaj Prikit, by some auspicious opportunity for the two boys, the great Saint Devarshi Narada once appeared there by chance. Seeing them intoxicated with rolling eyes, he could understand their situation. Purport. It is said, Sarusanga Sarvashastri Koi, Lavamatra Sarasange Sarvasiddhi Hoy, Chaitanya Charitamrita Matya 2254. Wherever Narada Muni goes, any moment at which he appears is understood to be extremely auspicious. It is also said, Brahmanda Brahmite Kone Bhagavan Grijiv, Guru Krishna Prasari Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Quote, according to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down to the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gives an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. End quote. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19:151. Narada appeared in the garden to give the two sons of Kuvera the seed of devotional service, even though they were intoxicated. Saintly persons know how to bestow mercy upon the fallen souls. Text 6. Upon seeing Narada, the naked young girls of the demigods were very much ashamed. Afraid of being cursed, they covered their bodies with their garments, but the two sons of Kuvera did not do so. Instead, not caring about Narada, they remained naked. 7. Seeing the two sons of the demigods naked and intoxicated by opulence and false prestige, Devarshi Narada, in order to show them special mercy, desired to give them a special curse. Thus he spoke as follows. Purport. Although at the beginning Narada appeared very angry and cursed them, at the end the two demigods Nala, Kuvera, and Manigriva were able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, face to face. Thus the curse was ultimately auspicious and brilliant. One has to judge what kind of curse Narada placed upon them. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur herein gives a good example. When a father finds his child deeply asleep, but the child has to take some medicine to cure some disease, the father pinches the child so that the child will get up and take the medicine. In a similar way, Narada Muni cursed Nala, Kuvera, and Manigriva in order to cure their disease of material blindness. Text 8. Narada Muni said, among all the attractions of material enjoyment, the attraction of riches bewilders one's intelligence more than having beautiful bodily features, taking birth in an aristocratic family, and being learned. When one is uneducated but falsely puffed up by wealth, the result is that one engages his wealth in enjoying wine, women, and gambling. Purport. Among the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, people are certainly conducted by the lower qualities, namely passion and ignorance, especially by passion. Conducted by the mode of passion, one becomes more and more involved in material existence. Therefore, human life is meant for subduing the modes of passion and ignorance and advancing in the mode of goodness. Tada rajas tamas bhava, kamo loba dayas cheye, cheta etar anavidham stitam sattve prasiditi. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2-19. This is culture. One must subdue the modes of passion and ignorance. In the mode of passion, when one is falsely proud of wealth, one engages his wealth only for three things, namely wine, women, and gambling. We can actually see, and especially in this age, that those who have unnecessary riches simply try to enjoy these three things. In Western civilization, these three things are very prominent because of an unnecessary increase of wealth. Mm-hmm. Narada Muni considered all this in the case of Manigriva and Nalikuvera because he found in them so much pride in their wealth of their father, Kuvera. Text 9. Unable to control their senses, rascals who are falsely proud of their riches of their birth in aristocratic families are so cruel that to maintain their perishable bodies, which they think will never grow old or die, they kill poor animals without mercy. Sometimes they kill animals merely to enjoy an excursion. Purport. When the modes of passion and ignorance increase in human society, giving rise to unnecessary economic development, the result is that people become involved with wine, women, and gambling. Then, being mad, they maintain big slaughterhouses or occasionally go on pleasure excursions to kill animals. Forgetting that however one may try to maintain the body is subject to birth, death, old age, and disease, such foolish rascals engage in sinful activities one after another. Being duskritis, they completely forget the existence of the Supreme Controller who is sitting within the core of everyone's heart. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridayesharjunatisati. That Supreme Controller is observing every bit of one's activity, and he rewards or punishes everyone by giving one a suitable body made by material nature. Brahmanyam sarvabhutani rantarudyani mayaya. In this way, sinful persons automatically receive punishment in different types of bodies. The root cause of this punishment is that when one unnecessarily accumulates wealth, one becomes more and more degraded, not knowing that his wealth will be finished with his next birth. Nasadamanye yata atmanoyam asanapit kleshada ashadeha. Srimad Bhagavatam 554. Animal killing is prohibited. Every living being, of course, has to eat something. Jiva jivasya jivanam. But one should be taught what kind of food one should take. Therefore, the Ishopanishad instructs, Tena tyaktena bunjita. One should eat whatever is allotted for human beings. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9:26, Patram pushvam palam tayam yoma bhaktya prachati, taraham bhaktya paritam ashnami prayatatmana. Quote, if one offers me, with love and devotion, a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. End quote. A devotee, therefore, does not eat anything that would require slaughterhouses for poor animals. Rather, devotees take prasad of Krishna, tena taktena bunjita. Krishna recommends that one give patram pushvam palam toyam, a leaf, flower, fruit, or water. Animal food is never recommended for human beings. Instead, a human being is recommended to take prasad, remnants of food left by Krishna. Yagnaisan Sistasina Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilbishai. Bhagavad Gita 3:13. If one practices eating prasad, even if there is some little sinful activity involved, one becomes free from the results of sinful acts. Text 10. While living, one may be proud of one's body, thinking oneself a very big man, minister, president, or even demigod. But whatever one may be, after death, this body will turn either into worms, into stool, or into ashes. If one kills poor animals to satisfy the temporary whims of this body, one does not know that he will suffer in his next birth, and for such a sinful miscreant must go to hell and suffer the results of his actions. Purport. In this verse, the three words krimi vid bhashma are significant. After death, the body may become krimi, which means worms, or if the body is disposed of without cremation, it may be eaten by worms, or else it may be eaten by animals like hogs and vultures and be turned into stool. Those who are more civilized burn the dead body, and thus it becomes ashes. Bhashma samyitam. Yet, although the body will be turned into worms, stool, or ashes, foolish persons, just to maintain it, commit many sinful activities. This is certainly regrettable. The human form of body is actually meant for jivasya tattva jignasa, enlightenment and knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, one must seek shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Tasmad gurum prapadyate. One must approach a guru. Who is a guru? Sabde parad Nisnatam, Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21. The guru is one who has full transcendental knowledge. Unless one approaches a spiritual master, one remains in ignorance. Acharyavan Purusho Veda, Chandogya Upanishad 6.14.2. One has full knowledge about life when one is Acharyavan, controlled by the Acharya. But when one is conducted by Rajagun and Tamagun, one does not care about anything. Instead, one acts like an ordinary foolish animal, risking his life, mrityu samsara vartmani, and therefore continuing to go through suffering after suffering. Nate vidu sagratim hi vishnum, Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.31. Such a foolish person does not know how to elevate himself in this body. Instead, he indulges in sinful activities and goes deeper and deeper into hellish life. Text 11. While alive, does this body belong to its employer, to the self, to the father, the mother, or the mother's father? Does it belong to the person who takes it away by force, to the slave master who purchases it, or to the sons who burn it in the fire? Or, if the body is not burned, does it belong to the dogs that eat it? Among the many possible claimants, who is the rightful claimant? Not to ascertain this, but instead to maintain the body by sinful activities, is not good. Text 12. This body, after all, is produced by the unmanifested nature and is again annihilated and merged in the natural elements. Therefore, it is the common property of everyone. Under the circumstances, who but a rascal claims this property as his own, and while maintaining it commits such sinful activities as killing animals just to satisfy his whims? Unless one is a rascal, one cannot commit such sinful activities. Purport. Atheists do not believe in the existence of a soul. Nonetheless, unless one is very cruel, why should one kill animals unnecessarily? The body is a manifestation of the combination of matter. In the beginning it was nothing, but by a combination of matter it has come into existence. Then, again, when the combination is dismantled, the body will no longer exist. In the beginning it was nothing, and at the end it will be nothing. Why then should one commit sinful activities when it is manifested? It is not possible for anyone to do this unless he is rascal number one. Text 13. Atheistic fools and rascals who are very much proud of wealth fail to see things as they are. Therefore, returning them to poverty is the proper ointment for their eyes so that they may see things as they are. At least a poverty-stricken man can realize how painful poverty is, and therefore he will not want others to be in a painful condition like his own. Purport. Even today, if a man who is formerly poverty-stricken gets money, he's inclined to utilize his money to perform many philanthropic activities, like opening schools for uneducated men and hospitals for the diseased. In this connection, there is an instructive story called Punar Mushiko Bhava, quote, again become a mouse, end quote. A mouse was very much harassed by a cat, and therefore the mouse approached a saintly person to request to become a cat. When the mouse became a cat, he was harassed by a dog, and then When he became a dog, he was harassed by a tiger. But when he became a tiger, he stared at the saintly person, and when the saintly person asked him, quote, "What do you want?" the tiger said, "I want to eat you." And then the saintly person cursed him, saying, quote, "May you again become a mouse," end quote. A similar thing is going on all over the universe. One is going up and down, sometimes becoming a mouse, sometimes a tiger, and so on. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jiva Guru Krishna Pasaripai Bhakti Lata Bij." Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19:151. The living entities are promoted and degraded by the laws of nature, but if one is very, very fortunate, by association with saintly persons, he gets the seed of devotional service and his life becomes successful. Narada Muni wanted to bring Nalakuvara and Manigriva to the platform of devotional service through poverty, and thus he cursed them. Such is the mercy of a Vaishnava. Unless one is brought to the Vaishnava platform, one cannot be a good man. Harav abhaktashya kuto mahadguna, Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12. An Avaishnava never becomes a good man, however severely he is punished. Text 14. By seeing their faces, one whose body has been pricked by pins can understand the pain of others who are pin-pricked. Realizing that this pain is the same for everyone, he does not want others to suffer in this way. But one who has never been pricked by pins cannot understand this pain. Purport. There is a saying, quote, "The happiness of wealth is enjoyable by a person who has tasted the distress of poverty." End quote. There is also another common saying, "Vanya ki bujhibe prashava vedana." Quote, "A woman who has not given birth to a child cannot understand the pain of childbirth," end quote. Unless one comes to the platform of actual experience, one cannot realize what is pain and what is happiness in this material world. The laws of nature act accordingly. If one has killed an animal, one must himself be killed by that same animal. This is called mamsa. Mam means me, and sa means he. As I am eating the animal, that animal will have the opportunity to eat me. In every state, therefore, it is ordinarily the custom that if a person commits murder, he is hanged. Text 15. A poverty-stricken man must automatically undergo austerities and penances because he does not have the wealth to possess anything. Thus, his false prestige is vanquished. Always in need of food, clothing, and shelter, he must be satisfied with what is obtained by the mercy of Providence. Undergoing such compulsory austerities is good for him because this purifies him and completely frees him from false ego. Purport. A saintly person voluntarily accepts the state of poverty just to become free from material false prestige. Many great kings left their princely standard of living and went to the forest to practice austerity according to Vedic culture, just to become purified. But if one who cannot voluntarily accept such austerity is put into a situation of poverty, he automatically must practice austerity. Austerity is good for everyone because it frees one from material conditions. Therefore, if one is very much proud of his material position, putting him into poverty is the best way to rectify his foolishness. Taridya dosha guna rasaranasi, where when a person is poverty-stricken, naturally his false pride in aristocracy, wealth, education, and beauty is smashed. Thus corrected, he is in the right position for liberation. Text 16. Always hungry, looking for sufficient food, a poverty-stricken man gradually becomes weaker and weaker. Having no extra potency, his senses are automatically pacified. A poverty-stricken man, therefore, is unable to perform harmful, envious activities. In other words, such a man automatically gains the results of austerities and penances adopted voluntarily by saintly persons. Purport. According to the opinion of experienced medical practitioners, diabetes is a result of voracious eating, and tuberculosis is a disease of undereating. We should desire neither to be diabetic nor to be tubercular. Yavad arta prayojanam. We should eat frugally and keep the body fit for advancing in Krishna consciousness, as recommended elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam 1-10. Kamasya nindriya priti labho jiveta yavrata jivasyat tattva jignasa narto yaschehi karma bi. The real business of human life is to keep oneself fit for advancement in spiritual realization. Human life is not meant for making the senses unnecessarily strong so that one suffers from disease and one increases in an envious fighting spirit. In this age of Kali, however, human civilization is so misled that people are unnecessarily increasing in economic development and as a result, they are opening more and more slaughterhouses, liquor shops, and brothels. In this way, the whole civilization is being spoiled. Text 17. Saintly persons may freely associate with those who are poverty-stricken, but not with those who are rich. A poverty-stricken man, by association with saintly persons, very soon becomes uninterested in material desires, and the dirty things within the core of his heart are cleansed away. Purport. It is said, Mahad Vichan Lanam Nirinam Grihinam Dina Chetasam, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.4. The only business of a saintly person, or sannyasi, is a person in the renounced order, is to preach Krishna consciousness. Saintly persons, sadhus, want to preach to both the poor and the rich, but the poor take more advantage of the sadhu's preaching than the rich do. A poor man receives sadhus very quickly, offers them obeisances, and tries to take advantage of their presence, whereas a rich man keeps a big greyhound dog at his door so that no one can enter his house. He posts a sign saying, quote, beware of dog, end quote, and avoids the association of saintly persons, whereas a poor man keeps his door open for them and thus benefits by their association more than a rich man does. Because Narada Muni in his previous life was the poverty-stricken son of a maidservant, he got the association of saintly persons and later became the exalted Narada Muni. This was his actual experience. Therefore, he is now comparing the position of a poor man with that of a rich man. Satam prashangam mama virya sambiro bhavanti hritkarna rasayana karta taj jo sanad ajvapavarga vartmani shada yaratir bhaktir anukramsi yati. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.25-25. If one gets the advantage of association with saintly persons, by their instructions one becomes more and more purified of material desires. Krishna bahir mukta haya bhoga vanshakare nitkata sta mayatare japatiyadare. Prema Vivarta. Material life means that one forgets Krishna and that one increases in one's desires for sense gratification. But if one receives the advantage of instructions from saintly persons and forgets the importance of material desires, one is automatically purified. Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Vapanam. Shikshastakam 1. Unless the core of a materialistic person's heart is purified, he cannot get rid of the pangs of Bhava Mahadavagni, the blazing fire of material existence. Text 18. Saintly persons, sadhus, think of Krishna 24 hours a day. They have no other interest. Why should people neglect the association of such exalted personalities and try to associate with materialists, taking shelter of non-devotees, most of whom are proud and rich? Purport. A sadhu is one who is engaged in devotional service to the Lord without deviation. Bhajanti mam ananyabhak. Tikshashur kurunika surida sarvadehinam ajata satrava santa Sharava Sadhubhushana. Quote, the symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he is peaceful, he abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. End quote. Bhagavad Gita 3.25-21. A sadhu is surida, devadehinam, or sarvadehinam, a friend, the friend of everyone. Why then should the rich, instead of associating with sadhus, waste their valuable time in association with other rich men who are averse to spiritual life? Both the poor man and the rich man can take advantage of the Krishna consciousness movement, but here it is advised that everyone do so. There is no profit in avoiding the association of the members of the Krishna consciousness movement. Narottam Das Thakur has said, Satsanga chari kainu asati vilash te karane lagila ye karma banda vansa. If we give up the association of sadhus, saintly persons engaged in Krishna consciousness, and associate with persons seeking sense gratification and accumulating wealth for this purpose, our life is spoiled. The word asat refers to an avaishnava, one who is not a devotee of Krishna, and sat refers to a Vaishnav, Krishna's devotee. We should always seek the association of Vaishnavas and not spoil one's life by mixing with non-Vaishnavas. In Bhagavad Gita 7.15, the distinction between Vaishnava and non-Vaishnava is enunciated. Namam diskritino mudha prapandyante naradamant nayapa kritigyani surambhava mastrita. Anyone who is not surrendered to Krishna is a most sinful person, duskriti, a rascal, mudha, and the lowest of men, naradama. Therefore, one should not avoid the association of Vaishnavas, which are now available all over the world in the form of the Krishna consciousness movement. Text 19. Therefore, since these two persons, drunk with the liquor named Varuni or Madhvi, are unable to control their senses, have been blinded by the pride of celestial opulence, and have become attached to women, I shall relieve them of their false prestige. Purport. When a sadhu chastises or punishes someone, he does not do so for revenge. Parikshit Maharaj had inquired why Narada Muni was subject to such a spirit of revenge, tama. But this was not tama, for Narada Muni, in full knowledge of what was for the good of the two brothers, wisely thought of how to cure them. Vaishnavas are good physicians. They know how to protect a person from material disease. Thus, they are never in tamagun. Saganan samatidhyaitan brahmabhoyai kalpate. Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Vaishnavas are always situated on the transcendental platform, the Brahman platform. They cannot be subject to mistakes or the influence of the modes of material nature. Whatever they do, after full consideration, is meant to lead everyone back home, back to Godhead. Text 20 through 22. These two young men, Nala-Kuvera and Manigriva, are by fortune the sons of the great demigod Kuvera, but because of false prestige and madness after drinking liquor, they are so fallen that they are naked and cannot understand that they are. Therefore, because they are living like trees, for trees are naked but are not conscious, these two young men should receive the bodies of trees. This will be proper punishment. Nonetheless, after they become trees and until they are released, by my mercy, they will have remembrance of their past sinful activities. Moreover, by my special favor, after the expiry of 100 years by this measurement of the demigods, they will be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, face to face, and thus revive their real position as devotees. Purport. A tree has no consciousness. When cut, it feels no pain. But Narada Muni wanted the consciousness of Nala-Kuvera and Manigriva to continue, so that even after being released from the life of trees, they would not forget the circumstances under which they had been punished. Therefore, to bestow upon them special favor, Narada Muni arranged things in such a way that after being released, they would be able to see Krishna in Vrindavan and thus revive their dormant bhakti. Each day of the demigods in the upper planetary system equals 6 months of our measurement. Although the demigods in the upper planetary systems are attached to material enjoyment, they are all devotees, and therefore they are called demigods. There are two kinds of persons, namely the devas and the asuras. The asuras forget their relationship with Krishna, asurambhava mastrita, whereas the devas do not forget. Dvo bhuta sargo lokeshmin daiva asura evacha Vishnu bhakta smrito daiva asuras tad viparyaya. Padma Purana. The distinction between a pure devotee and a karma mishra devotee is this. A pure devotee does not desire anything for material enjoyment, whereas a mixed devotee becomes a devotee to become a first-class enjoyer of this material world. One who is in direct touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service remains pure, uncontaminated by material desires. Anya bilashita shunyam gana karmadi anavritam. By karma mishra bhakti, one is elevated to the celestial kingdom By Jnana Mishra Bhakti, one is able to merge in the Brahman effulgence, and by Yoga Mishra Bhakti, one is able to realize the omnipotency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But pure Bhakti does not depend on karma, jnana, or yoga, for it simply consists of loving affairs. The liberation of the bhakta, therefore, which is called not just a mukti, but vimukti, surpasses the 5 other kinds of liberation: sarupya, sayuja, sarupya, salokya, sarsti, and samipya. A pure devotee always engages in pure service, anukulena krishnanu silanam bhaktirutama. Taking birth in the upper planetary system as a demigod is a chance to become further purified devotee and go back home, back to Godhead. Narada Muni indirectly gave Manigriva and Kalakuvera the greatest opportunity by his so-called curse. Text 23. Shukadeva Goswami continued, having thus spoken, the great saint Narada Muni returned to his ashram, known as Narayan Ashram, and Nala, Kuvera, and Manigriva became twin Arjuna trees. Purport. Arjuna trees are still found in many forests, and their skin is used by cardiologists to prepare medicine for heart trouble. This means that even though they are trees, they are disturbed when skinned for medical science. Text 24. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, to fulfill the truthfulness of the words of the greatest devotee, Narada, slowly went to that spot where the twin Arjuna trees were standing. Text 25. Quote, although these 2 young men are the sons of very rich Kuvera, and I have nothing to do with them, Devarshi Narada is my very dear and affectionate devotee, and therefore, because he wanted me to come face to face with them, I must do so for their deliverance. End quote. Purport. Nala, Kuvera, and Manigriva actually had nothing to do with devotional service or seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, for this was not an ordinary opportunity. It is not that because one is very rich or learned or was born in an aristocratic family will one be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. This is impossible. But in this case, because Narada Muni desired that Nala, Kuvera, and Manigriva see Vasudeva face to face, the Supreme Personality of Godhead wanted to fulfill the words of his very dear devotee, Narada Muni. If one seeks the favor of a devotee instead of directly asking favors from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is very easily successful. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is therefore recommended, Vaishnava Thakur Tamara Kukura Bulya Jana More Krishnas Se Tamara Krishna Ditipara. One should desire to become like a dog in strictly following a devotee. Krishna is in the hand of a devotee, Adurlabhamatma Bhakta. Thus, without the favor of a devotee, one cannot directly approach Krishna, what to speak of engaging in his service. Narottam Das Thakur therefore sings, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishyapichikeva. Unless one becomes a servant of a pure devotee, one cannot be delivered from the material condition of life. In our Gaudiya Vaishnava society, following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami, our first business is to seek shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, Ado Guru Vashaya. Text 26. Having thus spoken, Krishna soon entered between the 2 Arjuna trees, and thus the big mortar to which he was bound turned crosswise and stuck between them. Text 27. By dragging behind him with great force the wooden mortar tied to his belly, the boy, Krishna, uprooted the 2 trees. By the great strength of the Supreme Person, the 2 trees, with their trunks, leaves, and branches, trembled severely and fell to the ground with a great crash. Purport. This is the pastime of Krishna known as Damodara Lila. Therefore, another of Krishna's name is Damodar, as stated in the Harivamsa. Sachat Tanaiva Namnatu Krishno Vai Dhamabandhanat Goshti Damodariti Gopibi Parigiyate. Text 28. Thereafter, in that very place where the 2 Arjuna trees had fallen, 2 great, perfect personalities who appeared like fire, personified, came out of those 2 trees, the effulgence of their beauty illuminating all directions. With bowed heads they offered obeisances to Krishna, and with hands folded they spoke the following words. Text 29. O Lord Krishna, your opulent mysticism is inconceivable. You are the supreme original person, the cause of all causes, immediate and remote, and you are beyond this material creation. Learned Brahmanas know, on the basis of the Vedic statements, Shava Kalavidam Brahma, that you are everything and that this cosmic manifestation in its gross and subtle aspects is your form. Purport. The two demigods Nalakavara and Manigriva, because of their continuing memory, could understand the supremacy of Krishna by the grace of Narada. Now they admitted, quote, that we should be delivered by the blessings of Narada Muni was all your plan. Therefore you are the supreme mystic. Everything, past, present, and future, is known to you. Your plan is made so nicely that although we stayed here as twin Arjuna trees, you have appeared as a small boy to deliver us. This was all your inconceivable arrangement. Because you are the Supreme Person, you can do everything. End quote. Text 30 through 31. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of everything. The body, life, ego, and senses of every living entity are your own self. You are the Supreme Person, Vishnu, the imperishable controller. You are the time factor, the intermediate cause, and you are material nature, consisting of the three modes, passion, goodness, and ignorance. You are the original cause of this material manifestation. You are the Supersoul, and therefore you know everything within the core of the heart of every living entity. Purport. Shripad Madhvacharya has quoted from the Vamana Purana as follows. Rupyatvat tu jagadrupam Vishnu shakshad shukhatmakam nityapurnam samudinshtam sarupam paramatmana. Text 32. O Lord, you exist before the creation. Therefore, who, trapped by a material body of material qualities in this material world, can understand you? Purport. It is said, Ataki Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavid Kriyamendriya Seva Mukhe Jivado Swayameva Spratyada. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.234. Krishna's name, attributes, and forms are absolute truth, existing before the creation. Therefore, how can those who are created, that is, those entrapped in bodies created of material elements, understand Krishna perfectly? This is not possible. But Krishna reveals himself to those engaged in devotional service. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18:15 by the Lord himself. Bhaktimam Bhajananti. Even the descriptions of Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam are sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men with a poor fund of knowledge. Therefore, the best course by which to know him is to engage in oneself in pure devotional activities. The more one advances in devotional activities, the more one can understand him as he is. If from the material platform one can understand Krishna, then since Krishna is everything, idam kala vidam brahma, one can understand Krishna by seeing anything within this material world. But that is not possible. Mayam idam tatam sarvam jagadaviktimurtina matstani sarvabhutani machaham eva shvashtita. Bhagavad Gita 9.4. Everything is resting on Krishna and everything is Krishna, but this is not to be realized by persons on the material platform. Text 33. O Lord, whose glories are covered by your own energy, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are Shankarshan, the origin of creation, and you are Vasudev, the origin of Chaturvyuha. Because you are everything and therefore the Supreme Brahman, we simply offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. Instead of trying to understand Krishna in detail, it is better to offer our respectful obeisances unto him, for he is the origin of everything, and he is everything. Because we are covered by the material modes of nature, he is very difficult for us to understand unless he reveals himself to us. Therefore, it is better for us to acknowledge that he is everything and offer obeisances unto his lotus feet. Text 34 and 35. Appearing in bodies like those of ordinary fish, tortoise, and hog, you exhibit activities impossible for such creatures to perform, extraordinary, incomparable, transcendental activities of unlimited power and strength. These bodies of yours, therefore, are not made of material elements, but are incarnations of your Supreme Personality. You are the same Supreme Personality of Godhead who have now appeared with full potency for the benefit of all living entities within this material world. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4, 7, and 8, Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata bhutanam dharmasya tadatmanam shrijamyaham prityanaya sadanam vinishchaya triduskitam dharma samstapyate Parnathaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. Krishna appears as an incarnation when real spiritual life declines and when rogues and thieves increase to disturb the situation of the world. Unfortunate, less intelligent persons bereft of devotional service cannot understand the Lord's activities, and therefore such persons describe these activities as kalpana, mythology, or imagination, because they are rascals and the lowest of men. Namam duskritana mudha prapadyante nararama. Such persons cannot understand that the events described by Vyasadeva in the Puranas and other Shastras are not fictitious or imaginary, but factual. Krishna, in his full, unlimited potency, here shows that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for although the two trees were so large and sturdy that even many elephants could not move them, Krishna, as a child, exhibited such extraordinary strength that they fell down with a great sound. From the very beginning, by killing Putana, Shakatashura, and Trinavartasura, by causing the trees to fall, and by showing the entire universe within his mouth, Krishna proved that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The lowest of men, buddhas, because of sinful activities, cannot understand this, but devotees can accept it without a doubt. Thus, the position of a devotee is different from that of a non-devotee. Text 36. O supremely auspicious, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you, who are the supreme good. O most famous descendant and controller of the Yadu dynasty, O son of Vasudeva, O most peaceful, let us offer our obeisances unto your lotus feet. Purport. The word Parama Kalyana is significant because Krishna, in any of his incarnations, appears in order to protect the sadhus, Pritinaya Saranam. The sadhus, saintly persons or devotees, are always harassed by non-devotees, and Krishna appears in his incarnations to give them relief. This is his first concern. If we study the history of Krishna's life, we shall find that for most of his life, he predominantly engaged in killing demons, one after another. Text 37. O Supreme Form, we are always servants of your servants, especially of Narada Muni. Now give us permission to leave for our home. It is by the grace and mercy of Narada Muni that we have been able to see you face to face. Purport. Unless delivered or blessed by a devotee, one cannot realize that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Manasinam sashecho kishinyatati sideye. According to this verse in Bhagavad Gita 7.3, there are so many siddhas or yogis who cannot understand Krishna. Instead, they misunderstand him. But if one takes shelter of a devotee descending from the parampara system of Narada, Shambhur Narada Shambhu, then one can understand who is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this age, many pseudo-incarnations are advertised simply for having exhibited some magical performances, but except for persons who are servants of Narada and other servants of Krishna, no one can understand who is God and who is not. This is confirmed by Narottam Das Thakur. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nisharpa Chikeba. One is delivered from the material conception of life, and no one is delivered from the material conception of life unless favored by a Vaishnava. Others can never understand neither by speculation nor by any other bodily or mental gymnastics. Text 38. Henceforward, may all our words describe your pastimes. May our ears engage in oral reception of your glories. May our hands, legs, and other senses engage in actions pleasing to you. And may our minds always think of your lotus feet. May our heads offer our obeisances to everything within this material world, because all things are also your different forms. And may our eyes see the forms of Vaishnavas, who are non-different from you. Purport. Here, the process of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead is given. This process is Bhakti. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padisevanam Anchanam Vandanam Dasyam Shaktim Minivedanam. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23. Everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Rishikena Shishikesha Sevanam Bhakta Uchate. Narada Pancharatra. Everything, the mind, the body, and all the sense organs should be engaged in Krishna's service. This is to be learned from expert devotees like Narada, Swayambhu, and Shambhu. This is the process. We cannot manufacture our own way of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for it is not that everything one manufactures or concocts will lead to understanding God. Such a proposition, yatamat tatapat, is foolish. Krishna says, Bhaktimam ekaya graha. Only by executing the activities of bhakti can one understand me. End quote. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-21. This is called Anukulena Krishnanu Shilanam, remaining engaged favorably in the service of the Lord. Text 39. Shukadeva Goswami continued, the two young demigods thus offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Sri Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, is the master of all and was certainly Gokuleshwar, the master of Gokul, he was bound to the wooden mortar by the ropes of the gopis, and therefore, smiling widely, he spoke to the sons of Kuvera the following words. Purport. Krishna was smiling because he was thinking to himself, quote, these two young demigods fell from the higher planetary system to this planet, and I have delivered them from the bondage of standing for a long time as trees. But as for me, I am bound by the ropes of the gopis and am subject to their chastisements. End quote. In other words, Krishna submits to being chastised and bound by the gopis because of pure love and affection worthy of being praised by a devotee in so many ways. Text 40. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the great saint Narada Muni is very merciful. By his curse, he showed the greatest favor to both of you who were mad after material opulence and who thus have become blind. Although you fell from the higher planet Swargaloka and became trees, you were most favored by him. I knew of all these incidents from the very beginning. Purport. It is now confirmed that the Supreme Personality of God, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that the curse of a devotee is to be regarded as mercy. As Krishna, God, is all good, a Vaishnava is also all good. Whatever he does is good for everyone. This is explained in the following verse. Text 41. When one is face to face with the sun, there is no longer darkness for one's eyes. Similarly, when one is face to face with a sadhu, a devotee, who is fully determined and surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one will no longer be subject to material bondage. Purport. As stated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 2254, Sadhusanga Sadhusanga Sarvashastri Koi, Lavamatra Sadhusanga Sarvasiddhi Hoy. If by chance one meets a sadhu, a devotee, one's life is immediately successful, and one is freed from material bondage. It may be argued that whereas someone may receive a sadhu with great respect, whereas someone else may not receive a sadhu with such respect. A sadhu, however, is always equipoised toward everyone. Because of being a pure devotee, a sadhu is always ready to deliver Krishna consciousness without discrimination. As soon as one sees a sadhu, one naturally becomes free. Nonetheless, persons who are too much offensive, who commit Vaishnava aparadas, or offenses to a sadhu, will have to take some time before being rectified. This is also indicated herein. In text 42. O Nalakuvara and Manigriva, now you may both return home. Since you desire to be always absorbed in my devotional service, your desire to develop love and affection for me will be fulfilled, and now you will never fall down from that platform. Purport. The highest perfection of life is to come to the platform of devotional service and always engage in devotional activities. Understanding this, Narkuvara and Manigriva desired to attain that platform, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead blessed them with the fulfillment of their transcendental desire. Text 43. Shukadeva Goswami said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, having spoken to the two demigods in this way, they circumambulated the Lord, who was bound to the wooden mortar, and offered obeisances unto him. After taking permission from Lord Krishna, they returned to their respective homes. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 10th canto, 10th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Deliverance of the Yamala Arjuna Trees.
Thank you. That should practice. I can go to work. Actually, the company is very good. Why is he crying? It's a noise on compassion. Electrified mistake. Why is it? As I'm aware of, he's not going for it. He got a job. He got a job in Benin. That is what me I know. He's very rich. He goes for a job. He goes for a job. He got a job in Benin. That's what I know he's going for. Huh? Are you going to graduate to go? Not like I don't know how someone is understanding what he's doing. He was here for some time, man, and all the while he has been here. He has been trying to get something to do so that he can maintain himself. He approached Babu said he should wait for some time. But so I said that it's the indication that at the same time, he feels like there's no, Babu is not being committed to doing that. So he has been trying other means to get something for himself. So nothing about early this month, and looking like he got something in the name that he'll be leaving during the same time. But he has already informed me earlier before now that he'll be going. But I asked him to come to you so that he can explain to you, because it will not be nice that he leaves and you are not aware of how the whole thing was. And then this issue about him smoking and having something to do with Deity also. Should also come and say his own piece. So it will not be like as if people are saying something that about you, and it's like you're not coming to come and say anything about yourself. So you keeping quiet is like saying that you are doing whatever it is you are saying. So I want to say his own piece.
No. Later. If you have to do, they said he's offering him something.
I wish that he doesn't nobody this time. He doesn't want somebody that is
Yes.
working.
So whoever is staying in the temple cannot go for work. It's a rule that
But
probably laid down.
the reason why they are two having issues is because when Mother really daughter came, she went for work. Gora is going for his own duty. So everybody is having news of what is giving them something, except him. But when you approach Papa, who was like he doesn't want to do anything because he's going to use the money to smoke and all that. I said he's not smoking. He needs means to take care of himself. And his mother too is not happy that
He's
here
not
and
doing
not doing
anything.
anything.
And so
The last time the mom called,
he was working in Enugu. He was working in Enugu, and then he told me that there was an incident where he was working, and then they kind of sent all of them away, even to the extent that most of his things, his belongings, were stolen like this. Because he came here practically with nothing,
Yes.
He came with nothing, no clothes, nothing. And not just why he has been here. I've been the one trying to provide for him. Marriages, everything like this. You know? So it's been very difficult for me. So, honestly speaking, too much, I have been the one keeping him from going because he has been thinking about going. Because I think when he discussed with Prabhu about the work thing, Prabhu was more like he's not sure, like he wants to still watch him for some time, like this. Then he got a job. He got a job from somewhere. Then he also approached Prabhu about it. Prabhu said he cannot go, not start working.
This one in Dhira.
No, not the one. The
Yeah,
one
before.
here in Lagos. He got something. I think it was the devotee also. But Prabhu said no.
Who's the devotee?
Matya Prabhu. Matya Avatar, the one that
He employed him.
I think he got him a job.
yes, someone told me that I knew someone that he gave him a job. So he said he has to approach for everything. I think he even told Parama to help him. So the Prabhu said no, he cannot be in the temple and work. So the reason why he went this way and it triggered him was when Buddha daughter came and she started working. So he got angry, like, why is Prabhu treating me?
Did I say?
She has traveled.
She has gone now. She has.
The period that she stayed for almost 2 months, she started working with one Indian woman, cooking with them. And the way Gora also talked to him and
She insulted him.
Yes.
because he's earning money and he's not earning, so sometimes he talks to him and because sometimes when Prabhu will be like, Gora should not go somewhere, he will go and Prabhu will not do anything because he's avoiding the mother reaction and all that. So the whole thing, everybody is just bearing it and confused, like, why is this part like this and why is this side like this? He does whatever he wants to do, but other people cannot. Because his Prabhu is avoiding the quarrel between him and his mother.
See.
Because
If the one master Prabhu said they better go
It's just why I wanted him to come and speak to you in Blue Marriage. It's if you know about the whole situation and how things are going, and then I told him also he should put it in such a way that you know what is going on, and then he wants to know what you feel
You
about
should
it.
go here so you can see we can't hear.
Massive Babu is not here anymore.
Massive Babu has
They
also
have transferred.
they have transferred him from here to Ogun State.
Because even the Massive Babu was almost 200,000 that time. But this one I got in the 50,000. It's a car park place. You have to wash the place. Like it's car park where they sell car. Clean the place, make sure the environment is
I know we are good.
It's good one.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for your nice offerings. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept Ambulu disciples.
Thank you. Thank you very much. See you later.
Hare Krishna.